Hey folks, Sam Whitfield here. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for downloading the audio podcast and listening to the show wherever you may be. I really appreciate it. And I would like to let you know that you can also now support the show directly via Anchor. If you go to anchor.fm/Whitfield Report, you can now support the show using Apple Pay or Android Pay on your mobile device, depending on which type of phone you have. And you can contribute $1, $5, or $10 as the 3 levels of contribution. I would really appreciate anything that you can give. Every little bit helps the show. And you can find the link to support the show directly in your show notes, depending on which app you're using. I would really appreciate the support if you can. If not, please continue to support the show by giving us a rating on iTunes and sharing with your friends. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the show. So Kanye West is officially, but kind of unofficially, removed. He's removed himself from Donald Trump, basically. He has said that he was wrong, that he made a mistake. This came after Trump's announcement to remove birthright citizenship by executive order, which I'll be covering that more in depth on the Saturday podcast. I still have to do some research on that because I've been seeing conflicting stories from all sides on that, so I won't address it in this podcast, but lots of people have been talking about Kanye, quote-unquote, abandoning Trump's side and becoming an NPC, quote-unquote. That seems to be the way a lot of conservatives are taking his distancing from Trump. I don't see it that way, necessarily. I'm not necessarily thrilled that he's distanced himself from Trump. But I'm not really mad at him. I'm disappointed, but I'm not mad at him. I think he's kind of misunderstanding what Trump is trying to do. But like or not, Trump has distanced himself from Donald Trump. He's distanced himself from Candace Owens. I've seen conflicting reports that he insulted her after distancing himself, and then I've seen other reports saying that, he still respects her. He's just chosen to kind of step away. Candace's own blog post, which I'll link down in the description, seems to be very respectful of Kanye and his position to step away, and more importantly, folks, she seems to be focusing on Blexit or Blaxit. I think it's Blex is what they're calling it, but I could be wrong. She's going forward with that, which I'm glad. But Kanye has stepped away, and like I said, I'm disappointed, but I'm not pissed off. I was certainly excited to have Kanye West, on the Trump train for a bit. But like a lot of people, I was kind of skeptical as to how long it would last. People think that I bought into Kanye jumping onto the Trump train. I was cautiously optimistic. I would say I never bought into it fully. I was excited that he was joining the MAGA movement. I was glad to see him wear the hat. But I'm not mad that he's gone, because I think more than supporting Trump, I think his overall message, which I haven't seen him change his stance on, is more important than anything. Okay, what was his main message to Black America when he did the whole thing of supporting Trump and coming out to support Trump? Kanye's main message when he came out as a Trump supporter was basically, think for yourself. You don't need to be a default Democrat just because Black America has been predominantly owned by the Democrats for the last 50 years. Think for yourself. That was Kanye's overall message, was to have more Black people just getting involved in thinking for themselves, in being truly free thinkers. As far as I know, that part of his message hasn't changed, and I think that was his main purpose in starting to wear that hat. In all honesty, that's the way I see it. So as long as that hasn't changed, I mean, I'm not mad at him. If he's become an automatic shill for the Dems, and he's kind of backpedaling and he goes really hard on supporting Hillary or whatever, then I will be pretty pissed. But so far he's still going with the Black community being free thinkers. So I support that, even if I don't necessarily like the fact that he's left the Trump team. It is what it is. So that's kind of my whole take on Kanye West. People are also pissed at Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk for losing Kanye. They're holding them responsible. Now, let me say this. I certainly think it was risky for Candace and Charlie to bring on Kanye onto Team Trump. I don't necessarily, let me say this, I haven't necessarily always agreed with Charlie Kirk. Not so much on politics. He and I are pretty much mostly aligned politically on our views. What I'm talking about is based on talking to some friends of mine who are former Turning Point USA associates, employees, and affiliates. And I won't name names, but it seems like, at least from what I've experienced from personal interactions, a lot of people who have been affiliated with Turning Point in the past and are no longer affiliated with them, maybe it's just me, but very few of their former associates seem to have very good things to say about Turning Point, in terms of they didn't leave Turning Point amicably. Not necessarily saying that all of these people were fired. Some of them left independently. A lot of them did. But they weren't necessarily big fans of Turning Point when doing so. I know that last year, this is pretty much an open secret by now. Turning Point at their youth leadership summit in Florida, Charlie received some blowback, and well deserved in my opinion, for basically inviting Tomi Lahren to speak as a panelist, and then basically shielding Tomi from any quote-unquote controversial questions during the Q&A session. If you remember, last year was the year that Tomi Lahren went on The View and basically declared that she was pro-choice. That angered a lot of pro-life supporters, and particularly young pro-life women. And based on multiple stories and multiple testimonies on Facebook, a lot of people were upset by Charlie and by Turning Point, because I guess during Tommy's Q&A session at the event last year in Florida, a few of these people tried to respectfully ask Tomi her position and maybe try and change her mind, and Charlie shut down the dialogue. So that pissed a lot of people off. It didn't necessarily sit well with me. So there was that. And I hate to say it, but Tomi Lahren is, whether you like her or not, she's definitely become more of a polarizing figure in the conservative movement, and not necessarily in the good sense of polarizing. She's not a thought-provoker like Milo is. She's not polarizing to be a thought-provoker. She's just kind of polarizing for the sake of being polarizing now, it seems. Again, I'm an outside observer, so take what I say with a grain of salt and do with it what you will. As far as Charlie himself goes, like I said, I don't always agree with his management style based on what I've observed mainly through social media and through what other people have told me. But, politically we agree. I have spoken to Charlie Kirk in the past. We've tweeted a little bit, and we spoke on the phone once quite a number of years ago now, back when Turning Point was a smaller organization, and they initially wanted to bring me on. I was still living in Colorado at the time, and I was getting ready to move to Florida, and it didn't work out, but, now I'm associated with the Young Americans for Liberty, so it kind of all worked out. So my purpose in bringing up Charlie and Candace isn't necessarily to attack either of them. Like I said, I agree with Charlie and Candace on basically everything policy-wise. It's their management style that is somewhat questionable, and it's not just me. Because now they've really put Turning Point, they've really kind of, maybe not them directly, but Turning Point's reputation has definitely been brought into question at this point, because they have aligned themselves with two figures now who have kind of become questionable flakes in the conservative movement. They've they've aligned themselves with Tomi Lahren before, and that's been controversial. And she kind of flaked out when she went pro-choice. And then with shutting everyone down, and now Kanye has kind of flaked out on the conservative movement and done his own thing. Again, not mad at him, just kind of an observation. So Turning Point now has a real dilemma on their hands, because they've allied themselves with, with these two kind of questionable characters within the conservative movement, with Tommy and now Kanye. And yes, I do know that Candace and Tommy were fighting with each other on Twitter. I saw that exchange. And that's the other thing. It almost seems like Tommy wants people to forget that she was affiliated with Turning Point at one time. And, same with Turning Point, vis-a-vis. So that's interesting, and I guess that's my criticism of them both. So I bring up Turning Point not because I want to rip on them. It may seem like that, and yes, I know I'm associated with Young Americans for Liberty, and by the way, everything I say on this podcast is my own opinion and doesn't reflect the opinions of Young Americans for Liberty as a whole. I always make that pretty clear, but I like to say that in each episode, so, there's your disclaimer. I like Turning Point as an organization. I think there are good people working there. Like I said, their reputation at this point is kind of questionable. And I do hope they maybe take a step back before bringing on, untested figures, untested public figures like Kanye West or like Tomi Lahren. There are other things that are, that I've heard about Turning Point that I don't want to bring up in this podcast because it's mostly gossip and hearsay. So I won't bring those up. I'm just making my observations about the organization as a whole. I think where the conservative movement really needs to go from here, we as a conservative movement and as millennial conservatives, we all need to band together, whether it be Turning Point, the Young Americans for Liberty, Young Americans Foundation, College Republicans, whatever have you. We all need to band together and join forces to promote conservative values, to promote free speech and sustainable economics. That's pretty much what we're all here to do, right? Obviously, we'll have different approaches, but the message needs to be the same. I think we did a really good job of unity in 2016 with getting Trump elected. I think that was pretty much, we all agreed that Hillary needed to be stopped. So we did great with the whole unity thing in 2016. That was good. I think we're starting to fall back apart. At least the conservative millennials are with unity during the midterms. Like I said, I wasn't happy to see Candace and Tommy fighting. So why record this whole thing? Well, A, because it's Thursday. I haven't recorded a Thursday podcast for a while. And in case you haven't noticed, these Thursday podcasts are a bit more casual and laid back. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. That's why there's no video. It's pretty much just spur of the moment when I record these. So some weeks I don't have any Thursday thoughts to share, so I won't do one. And then other times I will do the Thursday podcast. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm recording this episode, is to get a Thursday podcast out there. People were asking me about my thoughts on the whole Kanye abandoning Trump thing, and I didn't want to respond to anyone yesterday. I kind of wanted to take a day to reflect on everything, and like I said, I'm disappointed with Kanye leaving the MAGA movement, but I'm not mad at him, because I think as long as he's promoting, that Black Americans should look to other political philosophies besides just the liberal Democrats and the left. That was his main message, and I think as long as he's still promoting that free thought, that's what matters the most. So I still applaud him for that. I applaud Candace for going forward with Brexit and building that. I'm excited to see where that goes. I don't know if I'll be able to get her on the podcast, but I'm hoping I will. I know that a few of you have requested that I try and get into contact with her, so I will at some point. Other than that, I'll be discussing Trump's proposed executive order to get rid of birthright citizenship, which I will say this: I'm not thrilled with the fact that he's doing it by executive order. Obama did a bunch of stuff with executive order and we complained, and to be honest, I'm not thrilled that Trump's doing that either, but we'll see where everything goes. And that'll be the show this weekend. So I guess I'll see you on Saturday evening. This has been the Whitfield Report Thursday edition audio podcast, off the cuff as usual. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. And by the way, thanks to all of you who have been subscribing to this audio podcast feed and sharing the word with your friends and family. It really helps us out, and thanks for doing that. Really appreciate it.